I always try to get my dog straight to the start, even if the bin's back there. I try to get him straight to the start. The thing we had here was a changing condition in that the shade was actually coming out. But what happens is you had a frost line, right? So you had a little minor transition right at the start. And so what happens is grass out here is drier than the grass in there. Some of it's frozen. Nobody had a big issue. I did see that one of the first two dogs bobbled a little bit at that line. And what happens is it's a boundary, right? So you get a little bit of back and forth. Then we moved to this. And this is the transitions we were doing yesterday, right? So the idea is I saw some dogs get their nose down and cross. I saw some just cross, just run across. A couple dogs went up higher, shaded building, but most of the time when the dogs went left, it's because they disengaged. So it's really about marking engagement at these transition points, like we were doing yesterday. And how do you practice that? You set up transitions and run them. And you reward, and over time you increase the macadam, in that if you made this 4 times as far, they have to track further across, like the parking lots we had yesterday, right? So when you transition apart. Now, the other thing I want to remind you of is that this is a transition too. And I think some people they think, oh, it's easier over here. Well, yeah, it might be easier for them to track in the grass, but they still got to transition to it. So they're tracking on hard surface. So sometimes you have to give them a moment. If my dog's shooting down the line, I'm going with him. And I will recommend in VST, you can be 10 feet. I'd at least start there, right? You know, you can adjust later, you can back up. If I get to a turn like that, I'm going to probably give more line. I saw some restrictions on people. Just because they go left doesn't mean that it isn't scent that's bringing them left. So I like them to get an idea of what's going around, but there's a limit. So what we call it is the further away they get, the harder it is to go. In other words, I don't check them, but it starts getting harder the higher they go. But the idea is I still want them to make this decision, and they transition into the grass. We had a little bit of a dynamic here with the article here. One thing is the article moved a little bit over time. When people rewarded their dog, it started drifting right. And I tried to have a few people fix it for me, but it was, nobody could hear me. The other thing that happens when you use a lot of articles over and over, people feed. So some of the later dogs, okay, so I'm just well, I can say this at the next article. All right, so as we move along here, we had a transition, and the sun on this changed, and the wind on this changed from the first to the last dog. Feel that wind? First dogs, it was still and quiet. This is a series of transitions and a building. I only had a couple dogs do it, but some dogs did this. All you do as a handler is you let them investigate it. You give them a little line, let them do it. Again, we have to transition again into here. I like trees in situations like this because I make my dog make a decision on what side of the tree to go on, right? So the idea is I'm waiting for that little flip. I'm not restricting, I'm not going with my dog, but that flip's going to tell me here's the track, or the flip could even be landing a trout or something. Right? But we came up, and then we had this regular turn. This is a regular turn like you would get anywhere, right? A little bit of a downhill. It changes only in the air changing. Nobody struggled with this. The most amount of struggle here was looking at me, particularly for the dogs with me. And then we came along here. Most of the dogs did this fine. This shade retreated over time. Where Deb is walking is where that shade started. When she ran the track, that's where the shade was. And several of the early dogs went in, and the later dogs didn't. Could it be that we run it over and over again. It could be, but it really was the thing that the shade retreated. And so that alcove was far enough away that it didn't suck them in. And then we came to this transition. Most of the dogs did okay with it, but you gotta wait and let the dog make the decision. The trap is the outside, right? If you get up against this building, it's okay, but if you were in a test, the trap is for your dog to go outside and miss that article. So the idea is to let your dog work this. Take a second and then make that distinct decision to get into this gravel. And actually, once they get into the gravel, this gravel is easier than that concrete is. You're up against the building. I saw Rain had to look at his reflection. He was absolutely gorgeous, and then he went on and tracked, right? A transition here. I did see a few dogs react to the door, but most of them moved on. And then you had this transition onto the sidewalk. So the idea here, this is another wait and let the dog make a decision. Now, if I was in a test, I know the article's there and I know the track's going to keep going straight, right? But straight can be straight like this. You know, you get those little side steps occasionally. And this is the straight sidewalk track we did yesterday. Pretty straightforward, but see how protected this is? You don't feel the wind like you did back there, even though the wind's coming from this direction because you got the building. Yeah?
Sean's supposed to be after an article. How many yards would be? Is there a minimum?
Yeah, there is.
30?
30. 30.
So that's how I would know if there's an article right there.
Judy, you want to tell them about my Richmond test?
Well, but here's the other thing.
Coming
Is
from the long angle.
occasionally, if your dog gets off,
Yeah.
and then it comes to the article,
You can be coming at it from the side.
yeah, you can, and they are still passing you. You're fine. Like
Yeah.
he turned the corner too early, and now he's over here.
So
and
you're coming
heading
in this way, and you think, well, the track's got to go 30 this way before it turns.
Right.
And
You
truthfully,
can
it
come
just keeps
into an
going
article
this way.
the wrong way.
So, and one of the things we were going to talk about later is I always treat articles almost like a restart. They got to find their way again because, as Judy said, you may come into them at an angle. But as we came down here, what did the majority of the dogs went left? And that is strictly that pressure from the building. It goes away, the airflow changes over the track. Particularly the dogs that spent the most time were the fringe dogs because they went over into the grass. But understand as a handler, as you approach the end of a building, you just make the dog make a decision. I always say, let the dog fail.
You just wait him out.
You wait them out. You understand that it's a transition and you wait them out and let the dog make a decision. And they all made the right decision given the time, right? So you wait here and let them, this is a lot of transitions, right?
Yeah.
You go from concrete to asphalt. And I will tell you, we had dogs that tracked on on concrete and didn't track on asphalt. In other words, they had their nose down, lifted their head up.
This is full of petroleum.
Yeah, it stinks
That's
sometimes. So.
And this also has a crack, and the cracks will hold the
Yeah.
scent too.
But I saw it even yesterday in our exercises. Sometimes asphalt and concrete, they're both non-vegetative surface, but they're different. So it's just exposing to both. And I mean, this afternoon, our moment of truth, it's more porous. I agree with you. Yeah. And this has its own odor. You've seen when they freshly pave roads or whatever. That doesn't go away. Then we had this transition over here, and I was actually very thrilled with this transition. They have to decide which side of the pole they went on. They have to decide whether to get up here or stay in the street. Almost every dog hopped up into here, which is what you want, that transition, right? That transition into this. A few dogs got sucked left here, right? In other words, they actually got sucked in and went along the building out to that thing. Don offered to move his car, and I couldn't see this transition very well. But this is where we were handing over to Judy.
Yeah, most of them did well. They took a minute and then took.
Yep. what I saw, most people hit this pretty good. But you saw there was a couple reactions. We had a few dogs that went out here. It is a sunny side of the building. But we also had some dogs that went up against the building, so it was kind of funny. And Judy might have to take over the commentary after this because I wasn't there. But I can talk about the different things.
Did you ever tell us about the article and the dogs?
Oh, yes.
Multiple dogs on the
Multiple dogs. If you're running a track with multiple dogs and there's an article there, it moves. People pick it up, the dog picks it up, the dog moves it. People give treats. And what happens is there's treats around in the grass and stuff like that. If you run into that in your training, it's my suggestion to just put it up a little bit further, get it out of that area. The dog's got to work through that. But, you know, when you've treated your dog, and let's pretend it's still there, that wasn't supposed to happen. When I'm training, and I treat a dog, and I have to leave that if somebody else is going to run it, I always do that. It just puts the article behind me. If I have a dog that's fixated on it, I'll pick it up and just drop it behind me when we go. But stepping over will often get the dog moving down the track. So, you know, this transition, we got the transition here, the doorway. And then an article to reward this turn and this whole section here.
How many feet here? Several dogs. Standing right beside the article, and it's like.
But understand when somebody soils a track or whatever, and then your dog has to run it, it's an opportunity, right? So your dog has to work through it. It doesn't matter that a dog is peed here. It's time to get to work. So I don't worry about that much.
So Tom went in
Sucked into the alcove.
both sides.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised. The other thing that can happen is some of them go out. So it's a disruption in the airflow over the track, right? And there's some shade in there. Yeah. And that's the more common thing, actually, is to get something in this way. And my guess is that this was shaded probably all the way out here earlier, as the sun's kind of coming around. And this is pretty straightforward. We have a metal article, right? Really one of the different types of articles. Judy can tell you, I imagine there wasn't a ton of problems here, right? Yeah, I would think it moves, yes. And that's just a natural thing. But in the end, they still got to find the article, right?
I will say this next article, there were multiples who passed it. The one that's in the lead.
Okay. That's why we picked certain colors. So there's a couple things that happen.
like K-cups or something. Hockey pucks.
So what do you have here? It's not a very good visual. Sorry, I pick up the bags. So we came along here, and we have an article that's not very visible, right? And this is the dynamic where Judy was talking about, is leaves can often muddle a track.
There's a lot of trash in here too.
There's a lot of... So what happens is, the only dogs to find this article are the dogs that are scenting. If they don't find it, it's not very visible, there's a lot of leaves. The other thing that happens is, Judy says, I step on this leaf, then this leaf blows over there.
Right.
Right? So there is a movement, so it becomes muddled. But they can follow a muddled track, and that's why I don't necessarily hate minor air scenting, particularly if it's directional. You ever see the dog where they'll kind of lean in and lean it, like, oh, it's over here. I mean, I love that telling me it goes right? You know, so I don't hate that, but that can't be the main mode of finding things, right? Then this is actually difficult, this end. And I set it up this way just because I was mean. So you have this transition onto this, these pavers. And the article is right up against the building.
Some did struggle with that.
So, and you have the little temptation around the corner, right? But what am I trying to do here? Keep your nose on the track and follow it to the end. You ever see in utility where the judges do a heeling pattern and they heel them straight into the ring gating? Because they're trying to find the dogs that anticipate the about turns. And so it's meant to help sort their dogs, right? So hopefully you found that fun.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
So if we're training in a group, so if the three of us get together,
Right.
somebody could lay the track, and then
everybody
everybody could run it.
Everyone could run it.
Yeah.
And you mix up who goes
Alternate
first.
Who goes first?
Yeah,
Yeah.
do that.
And who
You can
lays
lay
it.
3
And who
tracks
lays
in them,
it.
Yeah.
particularly if you're doing component stuff. I like progressive training, like we were doing yesterday, where you're taking a concept and increasing the difficulty of it through changes in either the track, the age, whatever it is. Because you saw, as I was talking about with the dogs that did all the exercises yesterday, did transitions better because it was set up. We do a simple transition, 2 transitions at Julie's house. Then we go out, we do a sidewalk track, so we try to get the dog tracking on the sidewalk. And we introduced the little doorways and all that kind of stuff. And then we do a long transition track. And almost every dog improved from the start to the finish of that transition track. And a lot of that translated into what we're doing today, because what is today? It's a building track, but it's also transitions. I will tell you that when I run into items on my track, like a pole or something like that, I sometimes like or a tree is, in training in particular, I'll mark going on the right side. Like, let's say the track went right to the right of that tree as I go down that tree. And my dog wants to go left. I'm not saying I wouldn't go left, but I wouldn't think it would. If he went right, I'm going to mark it. And when I see a sign, Rachel will tell you when we train in Easton, there's some signs on medical buildings and stuff like that. Go right up against the sign, and make the dog make the decision on what side of the sign is. Yeah, there it is. And you're just reinforcing. And a lot of those things are in hard surface areas and all, and you're reinforcing where you want the dog. So what we're going to do, we're going to go
Can I ask
back.
one more question?
Sure.
So today we had 12 dogs run or
Right.
whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're supposed to follow the original scent, not
Yes.
everybody else's.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the 12th dog ran a 2-hour-old track, basically, or not? Like, is that,
yes,
does the dog
yes.
understand that time
Yeah.
difference?
In time, yeah. Yes and no. Yeah, I mean, the dogs know that other people have run the track,
Right.
and there is that dynamic. But theoretically, they should be following the original scent, which is
Right.
that start article. And I will tell you, a few dogs went astray,
Right.
and not
But the
everyone went
dog-
astray, right? So you can tell in the sequence of the dogs working that, let's say, I've seen it before where one dog will blow a turn, go 25 yards past it, or 25 feet past it, not yards, but 25 feet past it. And the next dog that runs doesn't go 25
Right.
feet past
Right.
it, right?
Yep.
Which tells
But
you
it
that
is aging since he didn't
Yeah,
rewalk
it is-
like
it
he
is
did
aging.
yesterday on the
It does
side.
age.
But
I
it
just
is
wanted
aging.
to-
Yeah. Okay. But
So there
I
is
don't
that
think anybody
dynamic.
struggled with that. Oh no, no.
in age is, you want to use age, particularly in sunny parking lots and things like that. But I find most dogs don't struggle with age.
Okay.
But you never want to run the same thing. You don't want everything to be hot all the time. You don't want everything to be old all the time.
And if you
And if-
wonder when you're out and it's a fairly warm day, put your hand down on the cement and see how hot is that?
Yeah.
How hot is the cement
And if
compared to the asphalt?
it's too hot
and
for
stuff?
you to keep your hand on it, then you shouldn't be tracking on it.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
This summer, when I was working with Tom on some VST stuff, we were tracking it at 7:30, 8 o'clock
Yes.
at night because the
Yeah.
paper was cooled off
Yeah.
by then.
Yeah.
And
Makes
we were
sense.
meeting another group of people at 7 in the morning
Yeah.
when we were laying in
Makes
the
sense.
dark, right?
Yeah.
Do you lay tracks at night and then run them the next morning?
I know people that do. I haven't done that, but the thought process behind it is they don't age much at night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Vince Ramirez is big on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I think I could
and
race
I
on
will
that.
tell you, 3 to 5 hours, I've run 6-hour tracks.
Sure.
I mean, it happens.
Vince ran that 200 track last week. It was like 4.5 hours.
Yeah. And I've had students pushing 5 because you never know how long a dog's going to take on a track, and when the person's getting near testing, I like to get things up to the right age, and even play with that a little bit, like get them old and stuff like that. When they start getting closer.
So probably discover they don't
But
really care.
a lot of our activities are dog driven. You see a dog, like if I had one of the dogs that I felt was disengaging on the asphalt, I'm going to start doing asphalt work, right? And trying to work on things. There's a park near here called Nickel Park that's got sidewalks that are asphalt. So maybe I'll do the sidewalk exercise on asphalt, right? So the idea is I'm trying to create an environment where the dog can be successful. I can mark it. It's simple enough that I feel like the dog will understand what it's trying to do. Now this afternoon we're going to be out here, and we've been driving up here at the top, so we're probably going to start on the other side of the road, and we're going to come up here, and we're going to do 2 right turns and 2 left turns, and you'll run both of them, and there'll be moments of truth. And my guess is they're going to be at the top of the stripes, so that you'll know where they are.
The same spot though, right?
You could probably park along the road down here. So we'll park you there. But so everyone has the
And
address
that
to
makes
go
it
back
so
for lunch,
easier
right?
for people to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
watch, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
If we park them